There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Love, getting more out of life. Love, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy, and I'm happy, as always, to be alongside the one and only Joe Stanley. Welcome, Joe.
Darcy, it is so lovely to be with you, as always. And given Men's Health Week is almost upon us, I want to acknowledge the incredible work that you do, Darcy, in the area of mental fitness, especially in taking the power of meditation to kids and other men and to the sports arena as well. I think it is amazing, all that you do.
Very kind of you to say that, Joe, and it is a passion of mine to talk a bit more openly. It wasn't something I felt in the generations past, that males were very good about talking about their health or their mental health or how they could improve. And it's come leaps and bounds, I think, from past generations, Joe. And I really want my boys, I've got 3 of them, to feel that opening up, and my daughter for that matter, to being honest and recognising that we all have good and bad days. It's normal, it's natural, including the way we treat ourselves and our own health, Joe.
Well, you talk openly, Darcy, about your health and admitting to not always getting it right, which, I mean, none of us do, of course, but you open the door for other men to keep checking in on their own wellbeing, and I just think that's awesome.
Very kind again, Joe, but we still have a long way to go. So today we're putting the focus squarely on men's health, and in most developed countries, women outlive men, Joe. Us blokes also develop more chronic illness at a younger age.
But the big question is why there's such a big health gap between the genders. It is still a mystery. But things like men engaging in more risky behaviours like smoking and alcohol abuse, stressing at work and not prioritising their health enough are considered possible reasons. And I know with my beautiful husband, Daz, he's 52, and I'm always the one saying, honey, if you're not feeling well, go to the doctor, get that checked out, get your heart checked, get your cholesterol checked. I mean, you know, I know I sound like a nag. It does come naturally to me, I've got to say.
Look, I was actually on the receiving end of that there for a moment, Joe.
No, you're just my work husband.
Well,
it's
I appreciate that. But there is a blind spot for us males and we need to address it. So to kick off today, let's look at a big development happening in the field of contraception. Joe, a contraceptive pill for men.
Well, there is an old joke that if men had to remember to take a daily contraceptive pill, the world's population would explode. I don't know, is that a bit harsh?
I feel like there's a bit of reality in that. I've got 3 almost teenage boys in my house and trying to get them to brush their teeth is a challenge, let alone reminding them to take a contraceptive pill as they get older. So researchers around the world have been trying to develop the male contraceptive pill for years now, Joe, but a major step has been taken at Monash University and it could see a male pill soon become a reality.
For almost 30 years, Monash University's Dr. Sabatino Ventura has been trying to develop a male contraceptive pill.
It's sort of the most important thing I do at work every day. I mean, it's not the only thing I do. I'm also a teacher at university as well. When I'm teaching, I like to tell the students that this is something important which will change the world when it happens.
But Dr. Ventura is far from the first scientist to give this a crack.
Male contraception, or making men infertile, is not as hard as everyone makes out. There's been a lot of strategies that people have come up with that work. It's just the side effects and the tolerance of men to take those sorts of medications which has failed in the clinic. Not that these are any different from what women experience when they're taking their female contraceptive pill, but just men just aren't as tolerant to the same side effects as women are.
With this in mind, Dr. Ventura is taking a unique hormone-free approach. His idea is to develop a drug that temporarily blocks the brain signal that tells the sperm ducts to contract, preventing sperm from being transported out of the body.
I like to think of it as being at the airport. So a plane needs to get its passengers on board. So the passengers are waiting in the waiting lounge. Then they get a message to get onto the plane. So we're stopping that message. So the plane's going to take off, but it's going to have no passengers on board.
A contraceptive pill without any significant side effects might sound too good to be true. But so far, Monash's research is looking more and more promising.
We've genetically modified mice to lose the 2 proteins that we need to block with our strategy, and that makes the male mice completely infertile, but otherwise their behaviour and their physiological systems are all pretty much normal. So there's nothing changing except the fertility of the male mice.
From here, the goal is to produce chemicals that will safely generate the same results in humans. In theory, this drug could be on the market in just 10 years, but it all comes down to funding.
If this was a big drug company trying to make a male contraceptive, they might have 100 chemists making chemicals for this one project. At the moment, we don't have very much funding, so we're working on a bit of a shoestring, so it's taking a long time to get where we want to go. But yeah, the more money you have, the faster things work.
Pharmaceutical companies still aren't convinced that this drug would be popular enough to make the investment worthwhile. But recent studies show that the majority of men today would be interested in taking a contraceptive pill.
For guys, right now it's basically only condom or abstinence that are available. For females, there's, of course, the pill, like implants or any other types of contraceptives. So kind of evening the playing field for guys to also have a drug option available would definitely be a good thing.
I suppose the onus is put on females to do their part where, yeah, I think both sexes are obligated to, yeah, if they can get a contraceptive pill, fantastic.
I would be really comfortable if a male partner could take a contraceptive pill of any kind. I think it would be really a great opportunity to sort of share the responsibility a little bit.
When the female contraceptive came out, I think men were like, OK, well, that problem's solved. We're not really invested in this problem. It's more the woman that's going to get pregnant. But I think things are changing at the moment. Women want to have more freedom. They want to have more choice in their careers. They want to choose when they want to have their children, so they need more options. A lot of women have a lot of trouble when they take the female contraceptive, so they'd rather not if there was other methods they could use. Half of the pregnancies that occur in the world today are still unintended. So having a new male contraceptive, particularly one which is convenient to take because it's orally available and easy to get from the doctor and the pharmacy, I think it is something which will make it'll be a global game changer when it happens.
After the break, the conversation continues when I'm joined by three familiar House of Wellness male regulars. Would they take the pill? We'll find out right after this. Well, today we're focusing on men's health and wellness, and it's not often we have an all-male lineup here on the House of Wellness. I'm very happy to be joined by three of my favourite presenters of all time. Luke Hines, welcome, Hinesy.
G'day, mate. Good to see you, Das.
Gerald Quigley, good to see you, GQ.
Thank you.
And Dr Nick Carr joins me as well.
Lovely to see you, Das.
Great to have everyone here. Now, before the break, we were talking about the Aussie pioneer who's trying to make a male contraceptive pill a reality. And I'm interested to hear from you three guys what you think. And I'm going to start with you, Dr Nick. Why has this taken so long?
Yeah. So women, it's a lot easier because they have an on-off switch. So if you're going to get pregnant, you don't want to have another baby. So the hormones turn off the women's reproductive system. We blokes, it's not like that. There's no on-off like that. We produce sperm all the time. I mean, around about 1,000 sperm every second. And there's no easy way to turn that process off.
Well, it's a good explanation. There's so many players. I can see you're desperate to jump into this.
I was desperate to jump in, Das, but I've held back.
Have you got an off switch on? That's the question I want to ask. But I'm going to go to Hines.
I don't know if I want to know if GQ has an off switch at this point.
Now, you're the youngest amongst us. So have millennial blokes taken on more responsibility, do you think, when it comes to contraception?
Yeah, I think for a long time the guys were worried more so about the STI aspect of things because they weren't responsible physically for carrying a child. Whereas now, when we start to talk about contraception for men, I believe that if it existed, if we're at that point where we've got the option, then men can go, hey, I can take on that responsibility because even though the women do carry the physical load, men still are responsible in such an important way, and it's about having that choice.
Yeah, well said, and a good answer. GQ, I want to talk to you about maybe some of the pharmaceutical delays, getting a product like this to market. How do we make that happen?
There's many of them, Das. So from a potential patient's perspective, there's the safety, there's the efficacy. Can we prove in human beings that it does work? And then probably the biggest limiting factor, certainly in Australia, is cost. Clinical trials cost a lot of money, and that's good because then we're proving over and over again that they're safe, no adverse effects short-term or long-term, and more especially, they work.
Doctor, I'm going to come back to you from a medical point of view. How does a male pill differ from a female one, and why has it been so difficult to develop?
So if we're going to interrupt male hormones, one of the things that's been found is that there are a lot of side effects. They actually produced a really good pill 50 years ago, and it worked really well to stop men having babies, but there was one snag. It made you really sick if you drank alcohol.
Oh. You're being serious?
They're absolutely serious. So it blocked an enzyme which stopped production of sperm, but that same enzyme is involved in producing tolerance to alcohol. And the men, they couldn't have babies, but they couldn't drink.
It's an interesting choice.
No one was going to go anywhere near that. That's extraordinary, isn't it? Joe made the point before the break that if we left contraception up to the male population, we would have an explosion in birth. What do we think about that, Hines? I'll start with you.
Oh, I think there's this preconception that guys think a little bit more down there than up here when it comes to being in the heat of the moment. But I think that is going to change, because the more we have an option for this contraceptive, if we have the option, then through that education, we're going to be in a position where we really can take on that responsibility. And I think it's changing. It is changing. I think that's an old school way of thinking.
But remember, we've always taken responsibility, us men, throughout history, because prior to the contraceptive pill coming in, there was no alternative other than condoms or withdrawal. So men used to take the responsibility, and not very well, I have to say.
But surely adding this adds certainty as far as conception's concerned. So at the moment, the certainty rests with one person. But if you spread that load, we will get certainty. But as far as an overpopulation, that's a silly thing. No way.
So let me go back to the obvious question then, going back in time, as males on the panel. Would you have taken it, Dr. Nick?
So when my wife had 3 babies and she said to me, I took the pill, I've had the babies, it's your turn. So had there been a male contraceptive pill at that point, I would have bitten the bullet. That's a lousy metaphor. And I would have taken the pill. As it was, no pill available, so I had to go for the snip.
Would you have done it?
Yes, I would have. And bearing in mind that once women have had babies, many of them decide to have no more babies. But men, because of their sperm production, go on. So if something happened and a man remarried, then they may want to be a father again with a new partner. So this adds, again, a little bit of flexibility, certainty, and more especially responsibility.
While I'm with you, GQ, you've got son-in-laws.
Yes,
and
3 of them.
Have you seen a difference in the way the generations act and the responsibility they take?
Oh, totally. And look, bearing in mind, back, can I say it, in your day, Nick, getting a prescription for the pill wasn't easy. You know, you had to be almost in a fairly serious relationship, or was I different, Nick?
I think you're talking about a different era, because I grew up in the era where pretty much every woman was on the pill, that sort of Goldilocks zone, where most of us didn't have to worry too much about condoms or contraception because the women were taking the pill. And then everything changed in the 1980s when HIV and AIDS arrived.
And there's always been, side effects. It hasn't always suited a lot of women. And as males, we've been able to outsource that responsibility, Nick, and not, probably understand just how that's been challenging for women along the journey as well, isn't it?
I think what women realised is there is a major side effect of not having contraception, which is unwanted pregnancy. So the women were prepared to put up with at least some risk. For the men, that risk is much, much less tolerable because they're not the ones who are going to have the baby.
So let me ask you about some regular health checks blokes should make and the main factors they should be keeping an eye on, especially as we get older, Dr. Nick, on this front.
So every man should be thinking about blood pressure, cholesterol, sugar checks to make sure they don't have diabetes. And then once we get to the age of 50, this is my big one, is the bowel cancer screening, because fewer than half of men actually do that test. And then we also need to think about prostate cancer screening.
Now, Hines, let me come to you. You're really passionate about men's mental and emotional health, and you're all about staying fit, which you do. Do you find that's typical for most guys your generation?
I think there's been a bit of a shift. I think if we talk about women just for a second, in the 80s and 90s, we talk about what impact magazines had on people's self-appearance and how they should carry themselves or what they want to look like. I think with the increased usage of social media, men are feeling the pressure a lot more these days to look a certain way. And my hope is whilst they're trying to look a certain way to fit a certain mould, that we're still maintaining our mental health at the same time, because we've never worked such long hours. We've never been engaged and contactable so often with our devices. So it's trying to find that balance between fitting the expectations of our fitness but also managing our mental fitness as well. I think there's a lot to handle there.
Yeah, well said. Now, if you could change one thing about how men look after themselves or how you manage your own well-being, start with you. Dr. Nick, what would you do?
Well, Heinzie, you mentioned fitness. I mean, for me, exercise is perhaps the most important thing. And it doesn't matter whether you think about mental health, physical health, diabetes, arthritis, cardiovascular health, exercise is fundamental. So if I could change one thing with my patients and keep going for myself, keep moving.
Yeah. And this is a man who rides his bike everywhere,
Mate,
rain, hail or shine.
I've seen him in the bike shorts.
Not a great look, sorry about that.
You can't unsee.
Never.
Dr. Nick. And how about you, GQ? What advice would you give?
Probably, and I agree with the fitness, although I think we can become paranoid about fitness where people worry about actually being so fit all the time, which adds another stress to their lives. I like to think, certainly in my generation, we regain our connections with our tribe, with people our own age. We remain socially connected. Particularly blokes on blokes. It's certainly one thing in the last 10 years or so that I've become very much more aware of, us, that a lot of fellas work really hard, then step back, and they're really lost. And that's a very sad reflection on society. The young blokes like Heinzie, they're socially connected all the time. I'm probably in a different mould, thank goodness.
I'm going to get him back later, don't worry.
But we probably, though, are all... we have to remain connected.
Well, it's an enlightening conversation to actually sit around with 3 other males and talk about health and well-being as openly as we are this afternoon. It wasn't something in the past that was easily accessible, so I'm sure it's going to open some really good conversations. Heinzie and GQ will catch up with you a bit later in the show, and Dr. Nick, look forward to the next instalment of you and your beautiful daughter, Dr. Isabel, on the medicine past and present segments. Thank you, guys. Good to catch up with you.
Thanks, Dave.
Great to see you.
Nick and Sarah taking over the look. Take 825. Like all aspects of beauty, hair care is no longer exclusive to just the ladies, as I've been learning firsthand with you, Nick, my dear husband.
Look, we can't all wake up with hair like this, can we? This takes time, Sarah.
American Crew is the world's leading professional men's grooming brand. Their hair care ritual starts with the daily shampoo that gently cleanses without stripping the natural oils from the hair.
It adds shine and strength, moisturising the scalp. And as the name suggests, it can be used every day or as often as you like.
All good things do come in pairs though, Nick, so to follow the shampoo is the invigorating American Crew Daily Conditioner. Ideal for normal to oily hair, it instantly detangles and leaves the hair feeling silky smooth.
Now that's thanks to the Panama bark extract and other ingredients like rosemary, thyme and peppermint, which leaves the hair nice and healthy. The team at American Crew know that men's grooming goes beyond just shampoo and conditioner. There's styling, shaving, beard upkeep, skincare and cologne, and it's all available exclusive to Chemist Warehouse.
Wow, you're ramping up even more high maintenance than I am.
No one's more high maintenance than you. Just look at our bathroom cupboard.
Well, I'm not giving up any of that space. I'm just telling you now.
Sarah and Nick Davidson, they're proving that the couple who grooms together stays together. Now, Darcy, you know what I was thinking? I love the fact that the world is opening up and people are travelling again. And it made me remember, do you remember one of the very first episodes we did where you were at your health retreat in Bali with Matthew Richardson, AFL legend? That feels like a lifetime ago.
It does feel like a lifetime ago, Joe, and a bit's happened since then. Clearly been a tough couple of years for people in Bali, so we're really thinking about them a lot, and particularly the ones attached to Sukhavati Bali, which is our health retreat, Joe. And so to have it back up, they are over the moon. People are coming back. It is back open. There are no quarantine restrictions. And the trend in wellness travel is really enormous at the moment. People are wanting to go away on their holiday and come back feeling better than when they started. So thanks for the opportunity. Give it a bit of a plug. It is back open, Sukhavati Bali. And it was great to take an old mate up there, as you said, AFL legend Matthew Richardson, and we had a lot of fun up there. It was great.
Well, I do remember there being some kind of massage involved and the two of you having the giggles. I'm not sure what was going on.
There's a touch of laughing yoga, which I'd never experienced before. Need to get you up there. That's on the list this year. We'll try and take the House of Wellness back up to Bali, to Sukhavati, if we can. We had a great time together in Bali, and for Men's Health Week, I caught up with my great mate Matthew Richardson to see how he's keeping himself in shape post-footy. Well, it's always great to catch up with an old mate and an AFL legend, 280 games, 800 goals, had a superstar career. What about life after footy, Richo? You look fit and healthy. How's your routine these days?
Yeah, I've got a good routine, Das. I think when I first retired, I had a couple of months off because you just want to let your hair down, and I went overseas and had a bit of a holiday. But I remember getting back from that trip and thinking, oh, I've just got to keep moving here. I didn't want to stop altogether for 12 months and sort of get unfit and then be chasing my tail for the rest of my life. And I like to go running still, go to the gym a couple of times a week, probably run every second day at least, and that's probably how I keep fit.
So I think there's two types of people who play sport for a living that either let themselves go completely or are pretty dedicated and disciplined like you. So what about food and nutrition? How much effort do you put into that?
I wouldn't say I'll go over the top with what we're eating, but generally speaking, if we're cooking at home, we're cooking pretty healthy. But if we go out and I'll have a pizza or a hamburger, I'm not that diligent with my diet. But I think as long as you're exercising regularly, you can have a little blowout every now and then, whether it's on the weekend, on a Saturday night or Sunday arvo, the pizza or fish and chips.
Or the occasional pie, Richo. I think my favourite photo of you ever, I think you might have been papped down the street eating a meat pie. You look like you're enjoying that one, mate, on that occasion.
I'm not sure why I was papped to start with, Das. I think they were looking for someone else, yeah, but it was a mate's wedding the night before, and I used to live in Elwood, and there was a bakery in Elwood that had the best pies you'll ever have. So if I'd ever have a few beers, I'd head down to the bakery and get a pie, and that was my go-to.
Had the great pleasure of taking you up to Sukhavati, Bali, the health retreat that I've been involved in, Richo, for 10 years. It was great to see you up there, and you learnt meditation. Has that stuck with you? Is it something you use still?
Yeah, it has, Das, and I was really grateful to have that opportunity to go up to Bali. And yeah, I really found that, if I do that 15 to 20 minutes a day, it just levels you out. If I'm feeling a bit stressed, or if there's a bit going on with the kids and family at home or work, if I can get 15 minutes quiet time, I think it really does just calm you down, level you out, you think a little bit clearer. So I'm really enjoying it still.
And in terms of parenting, Richo, you're a bit of a late starter to that space, mate. It's I know something that you love, and the girls are the passion and love of your life. How much has your life changed now, having kids later in life?
Yeah, it's changed a lot, clearly. But I was a late starter, Das. I was in my early 40s. I might regret that later on, mind you. But yeah, really enjoying it. It's hard work, obviously. 3 little ones, but yeah, so rewarding at the same time, Duke. Every day you get up, and if you're feeling a bit flat about anything, you see little Zoe or Riley when you wake up, they give you a smile, and your day's automatically a lot better.
Now, Richo, you're a great contributor. I always see you doing stuff for charities and for great causes, including recently you took some great mates over to track the Kokoda track. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, that was a really good opportunity through a charity, Windermere, that I'm involved with. They asked if I'd like to take a group to Kokoda to raise some money for them. So I thought the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I've got a few mates there with me. It was one of the best things I've ever done, obviously learning about the history of what our diggers did in World War II while sharing the experience with friends, and doing something that was pretty hard. It was a hard slog, but so rewarding at the end of the day. And then to have that bond for the rest of your life with your mates that you've done something like Kokoda with. I think that's another thing with exercise or anything that you do. If you can do it with friends or get a group together, if you don't turn up, you're letting someone else down. And it's a bit like the old footy days. You turn up late to training, you're letting everyone else down, and that's another good little tip, I reckon. One thing I'm not going to do, though, is ever put the Lycra on and ride a bike.
That's it.
Middle-aged men with Lycra, it does not work.
Life is busy, GQ. Work, family, social commitments, bills, pets, life admin. No wonder we are stressed, and so many of us experience mild anxiety.
And Hinesy, the resulting emotional or mental state may also influence our broader health. And that's what led physician Dr. Edward Bach to discover 38 flower remedies in the 1930s.
OK, I better settle in for a history lesson here.
It's actually a health lesson. We need to address our emotional needs more than ever, and we can do that with a combination of 8 Bach flower remedies to calm the mind. Bach flower remedies can provide us with natural stress and mild anxiety relief in the 21st century.
It sounds like what I and the other 4.9 million stressed Aussies need, a solution to encourage a restful and quiet mind. Now, speaking of quiet...
Bach flower remedies are available in spray, pastille and dropper form. When choosing, it's important to select the original method and potency, as these are Dr. Bach's unique specifications. Look for Australian made and owned and alcohol-free, which means it's suitable for the whole family.
I feel zen just talking about it. Now, say it with me, GQ. Oh.
No, I can't. I've just got to change positions. I cannot do that. I need to move. I've been in this pose for too long.
Sorry, did you say something?
The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Rest and Quiet Calm with Dr. Bach's original potency flower remedies. When stress or mild anxiety happens, look for Rest and Quiet Calm in the blue box.
Thanks, Heinzie and Gerald. I feel more relaxed already.
Joe, ask men what they worry about the most as they get older, and I bet the majority would say going bald.
Well, actually, you're right. If you go by a survey in the UK that asked that very question, 94% of responders said hair loss was their biggest fear. And I've said it before, I love a bald man. Oh, I mean, I get that it's distressing for some men and certainly women when they see their hair falling out in the shower or on the pillow when you wake up in the morning. But, you know, give me Bruce Willis. I'm pretty happy.
How about Daz? How's he going on top?
He has a little friar tuck thing going on there. But let's go back to bald men. There's The Rock. Now,
Good-looking bald man.
He does all right.
Vin Diesel?
Oh, no. It's taking a little bit too far. But honestly, I love Daz's attitude. He doesn't really care because he's like, I'm happy, I'm healthy, you know,
He's
what
a
does
hat
it
man,
matter?
though.
He wears a hat every single day. That's true. He wears a hat every single day. But is it something that you worry about?
Well, I think I would be very unattractive bald man, Joe, so I'm sort of hoping it hangs around. But what do they say? It comes from your mother's father? Is there something genetically there? He was as bald as a badger, Pop Fred, so that's maybe not a good sign for me. I think genetics play a role, and maybe I'm lucky at the moment, but I really get how losing your hair drastically can affect male self-esteem and confidence. And while there's no cure for male pattern baldness, new treatments to reduce or slow hair loss are being developed all the time.
Yeah, I guess when I first noticed that I was starting to lose hair, I was about 21, 22.
After I'd have a shower, I'd notice my hair falling out, and I would check my hairline and just see it was receding.
Around like 23, I think I went to the hairdressers and saw like the U at the back of my head when I was getting a haircut, and I was like, oh no.
About 1 in 4 men start losing their hair before the age of 30, with most blokes experiencing some degree of male pattern baldness by their 50s. But despite its prevalence, dermatologist Dr. Aisling McNally says many men struggle to come to terms with their receding hairline.
I think there is a misconception that because male pattern hair loss is a very common condition, that it shouldn't cause an individual any problems. However, I don't believe that to be the case. It certainly can have an enormous psychosocial impact on that person and their self-image and their self-esteem, and that can flow into their social interactions.
Most of my friends have older hair, so I was the first in the group to start losing it. I felt quite shameful in a way. For some people, your hair is your identity, and if your identity changes, it's a very personal thing.
Like I thought people bald in their like 40s or 30s or 40s, so yeah, like balding at 20, I was like, oh no, like, am I going to find a partner who's going to find me attractive?
Every now and then I'd look in the mirror and just go, why? You know, how can other people have this big head of hair at 60 and I'm 22 and it's disappearing?
The male pattern baldness is largely caused by the action of testosterone on the hair follicles. And so those individuals that are impacted have high levels of testosterone at the follicle level or an increased genetic sensitivity at the follicle level. And the testosterone has a different effect on the hairs of the scalp than it does on other parts of the body. It actually causes the hair to shrink and become finer and weaker over time. The truth is that there is no prevention for the condition of male pattern baldness. However, your dad and your brothers, that's going to give you a little bit of an idea about your own personal risk.
I've got two brothers that have amazing hair, like really thick hair. I've got another brother who actually lost hair way younger than me. I think he was like 15, 16 years old, and his hair was already just disappearing.
So the thing about being bald is once the hair grows for a few days, it can be quite grippy. So if you put on a hoodie, you'll notice bits of things stick on there, so you have to brush it off.
If you're outside for like more than an hour, you kind of need to be wearing a hat, otherwise you just get burnt.
It's actually a lot less maintenance right now to have a little bit of hair than to have none, because you've constantly got to shave it because it's going to grow back looking funny.
Although there's a lot to get used to, a lot of guys end up embracing the bald look. But for those who aren't so willing to part with their hair, there are a number of treatments available.
We try to tailor the treatment option to the patient. So it starts right from topical treatments, such as 5% minoxidil foam, which is typically applied once to twice daily to the affected areas, right through to tablet treatments, which tend to be more effective than the topical treatments. The goal of the tablet treatments is to lower the concentration of active testosterone near the follicles and in the skin of the scalp. This doesn't have large effects on the level of testosterone within the body overall. It's important to know that if it is something that you are concerned about and you want treated, the earlier we start treatment, the more hair that we can preserve and the better results we usually get.
There have been times where I thought about getting treatment, seeing my doctor and seeing what they think would be the best course of action. But I also think about the cost, and I also think about the time and if it's going to work or not. I think it's easier just to accept being bald.
I reckon that the benefits definitely way outweigh like the negatives. Like it obviously worked out to the better. Like I met my partner when I was bald and she's like, yeah, I quite like it and had no issues since.
Everyone is different. Now, if you're able to look yourself in the mirror and be happy with how you look, with or without hair, just be happy about it.
It's a problem that faces us all at the moment. 7 Australian men take their own life every single day. 2 Australian women take their life every single day. And we have 65,000 attempts of suicide a year in this country. The aim of Gotcha for Life is 0 suicides. And I know that's a big call, but 1 is too many. There's way too many Aussies worrying alone. There's way too many people worrying alone. But I want everyone to have a friend or a mate that's Gotcha for life, not just Gotcha for the time that you're working there or at university or at school. Someone you can talk to, warts and all, about absolutely anything without any form of judgment.
Not the most common sight to be in a room and see 150 blokes rocking up on a weeknight to have a conversation.
So what we're really trying to do at Gotcha for Life, and that's why the money that is raised through Chemist Warehouse is so important, is that we put people into these workshops to give them the skills to be able to listen, to give them the skills to be able to talk openly about the stuff that's worrying them. And it's all about having your emotions out there and validated and feeling safe enough to talk about how you truly feel. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a friend, it can be a professional. Just as long as you're talking to someone, as long as you're not just burying those emotions, that's the key. I talk about mental fitness, not mental health. And let's say, what's your mental fitness out of 10? And everyone watching us right now could give yourself a number out of 10 for how physically fit you are. But what's your number for your mental fitness? And let's start working on that. Let me give you some exercises for you to be more mentally fit, just like I'll give you some exercises to be physically fit. That, I think, will allow us to not worry alone. And if you're not worrying alone, I believe you're more likely to get through the type of stuff that life throws at you.
The work that Gus does for men's mental health through his charity Gotcha for Life cannot be overstated. He has helped countless everyday Aussies kickstart meaningful connections and conversations. What a legend.
Oh, amazing. And Gus's foundation, Gotcha for Life, is a non-profit group that relies on people's generosity. They've got a major fundraising push happening right now, so head to their website to find out how you can lend a hand or donate.
And a key message Gus wants everyone to know is that taking care of yourself is about way more than just muscle and bone, Joe. Blokes' mental and emotional fitness is just as important.
So Gus caught up with some like-minded mates, Dr Kieran Kennedy and Scott Henderson, to find out a bit more about changing attitudes towards men's health and wellness.
Even as recently as, 4 or 5 years ago, it was very, the perception of men's health was very based around aesthetics and kind of, I guess, manly stereotypes, machoism. But yeah, I guess we're kind of more gradually moving, well, not even gradually anymore, moving towards a mental health focus. And people are realising that these pillars of health don't work in silo, they work together to create kind of a whole overall aspect of health.
100%. I think it's becoming a lot more holistic. It's not just about cholesterol, salt, all of these things. And it's not just about the outside, like Scotty said. We're thinking as men now more about the inside. We're thinking about the touchy-feelies a bit more. We're talking more, feeling more. And so I think men's health in 2022 is something that is much more of a whole package compared to what it used to be.
I think it's your generation that is sort of leading that. I mean, the work we do at Gotcha for Life is a lot with young people, but also talking to the dads of guys like you and the granddads of guys like you and saying, hey, you did a great job for what you knew at the time, and no criticism, but we're doing things differently now because we know stuff that you guys didn't know 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. Like medicine, health, all of these big ticket areas have moved so much in such a small space of time. And I think men are moving with that, which is such a positive thing to see. So as you say, things are much more acceptable and talked about these days compared to what they were even 20 years ago, which is just amazing to see.
Yeah. And I think it's great that older generations seem to have embraced this change as well. I think probably this is where social media has been a great thing. There's more exposure to different ideas and different ways of thinking for not just our generation, but every generation. That access is right there, and we can see different ways of thinking and different ways of talking about our health.
I think that whole, that era of kind of sucking it up, tough it up, don't talk about it, look like you've got all the answers all the time. We're moving away from that in a really beautiful way. So I think men these days are able to be a lot more vulnerable, open about not having all the answers or knowing it all. And I think that's why we're actually moving in a positive direction for our health rather than bottling it up and pretending we know everything when we don't.
There's still a lot of blokes that I talk to and they think about a doctor and it scares them still. Even though it's easy now with a whole lot of different options on how to see a doctor. How do we sort of normalise going to see a doctor, take away the white coat, talk about the words, even like wellness that can scare a lot of blokes, and normalise it?
There's some really bang-up statistics that show that compared to women, men are far less likely to see a doctor, follow through with a doctor's advice. And you're right, I think it's because it's for too long been very clinical, stodgy, a bit confronting. So I think kind of having these conversations and, just like we said, framing health and mental health as something that's more part of our everyday. It's part of a man's day-to-day life rather than something that needs to be kind of scary or booked in once a year. We're not talking about prostate exams and all these big freaky things anymore. We're talking about little bits and pieces every day alongside your doctor if you need it that are going to kind of keep your brain and body ticking away well for years to come. Yeah. So,
as our part as media, a men's media platform and Men's Health, it's bringing that into normality, and we want it to be as common as talking about your gym sets or the sport on the weekend. There's nothing wrong. We all have health issues. We all go through the same thing. We're all human beings. No one functions absolutely perfectly, and no one functions the same. And that's kind of what is beautiful about being a human and being a man is being yourself and bringing your own experience to that.
Challenging masculinity in this country and trying to ask what are the rules now to be a boy and a man. Those conversations are now happening, as you say, most of them on social media, and they're the combos we've got to keep going with.
And totally, and I get it can be overwhelming because there are no rules anymore.
Yes.
So where do you even start? But if you flip that on its head, well, there are no rules anymore.
What an opportunity.
So let's get started, yeah.
100%. And I think we're not trying to say that all elements of that older traditional masculinity are wrong or bad. I think the word toxic masculinity has been thrown around a lot in recent years, and we're absolutely not trying to push or say that. You know, I think we're trying to say that maybe some of the pressures men have had on them in the past are lifting. And as you say, it's a time now where men are really writing their own script about what masculinity is and who a man is and wants to be. And that's embracing some of the good of the old school masculinity, but it's also taking on some of these new concepts.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Gus. Appreciate it.
Men around the globe are being encouraged to look at their health mentally, emotionally and physically as International Men's Health Week is about to kick off. And that inspired us to focus on men today, Joe, but that's just half the equation.
Well, exactly right. I mean, women have a major role to play too with encouragement and support. And I don't think it's about a battle of the sexes. It's about unifying the sexes to support each other. That's really important. Research by the Grattan Institute found that mums and dads who take more equal care of the kids has a massive impact on childhood development and, of course, on the family unit as a whole.
Yeah, and I think in modern dads, there's this feeling that you want to be more hands-on with your kids, but at the same time, you want to provide in equal measures. So I love the fact that there's much more open conversation around being actively involved as a parent, as a father, and all those things, but the evolution's taking a little bit more time, I think, to get the skill set to balance it all out, Joe.
Well, women still do the majority of unpaid work and child raising, and Australia has one of the least generous parental leave schemes in the developed world, and there are now calls for paid parental leave to be increased, especially for dads, to help them be more hands-on. But, you know, part of it is around culture, because a lot of workplaces have great parental leave for dads, but there's not the culture to encourage men to take it. And it's actually been shown if men take as much leave as women, everyone benefits, not just the families, but the workplace.
Yeah, and that is the reality, isn't it? The family unit is evolving, and it should evolve, and it needed to evolve, but we're searching for a better way. It's a good discussion to have. Well, that is our show for today. You can get behind men's health and find out more in the Weekend Lift Out.
And a gentleman who's very passionate about men's health, Gerald Quigley, will join me on the House of Wellness radio show this Sunday.
Thanks as always to our great friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you again soon.